All right, so part two. And try to get all this done before it gets dark. So, from the time I was taken away from my parents to, time I was about 16, 17 years old, maybe right before 17, I've been on medication practically my whole life at that point. And they had me on medication for ADD, ADHD, bipolar. I think I was on medication for schizophrenia at one point. I've taken Ritalin, Adderall, and quite a few others. I couldn't even imagine remembering all the crap that I've taken over the years. But every month I'd go see a therapist, and they would renew my prescriptions, put me on something else. Talk to my foster parents. See how I was acting. If I was acting good, they'd continue with whatever I was on. If I was acting up, they would change it to something else. So after military school, starting military school, the state had to sign me out of their custody for me to even go into this school, this program. And even in there, I still had to keep taking my medications and stuff like that. But once I got out, I went to my last foster home, and, my foster parents looked at me, they said, you're old enough, you're responsible enough, you can take this on your own. You don't need us telling you need to take it, So there for a little bit, a couple months I did. And, then I stopped taking it. I quit taking it on my own. I knew I didn't need it. I was, a little smarter than that. And, they kept taking me to therapy every month until I turned 18. I went to therapy every single month. And, before I even hit 17 is when I stopped taking it. And, my therapists were, hey, how you doing? It looks like it's been a while since you've, needed to renew your prescription. Are you doing all right? Do you need a refill? I said, honestly, I've been flushing it down the toilet. I ain't been taking it. They said, oh, really? All shocked. And I said, yeah, I've not taken it. I haven't taken it in months. I was going to work full time, hanging out with my friends after work, coming home, showering. I kept my room clean. My room was spotless. I vacuumed. I made my bed, put my clothes away, did my laundry, fed myself. I took care of everything. And, they kicked me out of the room, brought my foster parents in. They asked them, how's he doing? Without telling them I stopped taking my prescription. They asked him, hey, how's he doing? Apparently my foster parents bragged on me like I was, the greatest kid they've ever had. How many 16-year-olds do you know that, go out with a full-time job, have already graduated high school and, keep their room as clean as I had mine. Like, it was just, I was an adult at that point. Military school grew me up a bit. And, they said I was doing great. They had absolutely zero problems out of me. They told me I was, self-sustaining. I could do everything myself. Didn't need help with anything. And, they told them I was doing great. And doctor brought me back in and he said, well, you've been this long without it. He said, it sounds like you're doing great. There's no reason to continue this prescription. So they cut off all my prescriptions. And then like a month or two later, I ended up going back to that same therapist. They asked me how I was doing. I told him. I'm not going to mention his name, but he ended up telling me, he said, the first time he met me, he didn't think any of my paperwork was correct at all. Everything that I was diagnosed with, was just a bunch of bull. So, at that point, it kind of kicked me in the face like, the state's doing this to us. The state is, and it's costing taxpayer dollars too, to raise these foster kids, because the state's paying for the therapist, which, therapy's not cheap. It's paying for the psychiatrist and everybody, all the doctors and everybody for all these prescriptions. It's costing money for the prescriptions because everything's covered. It was costing the state money to pay these foster parents ungodly amounts of money, just to look after somebody. These people have looked after their own kids for free, and they're accepting all this money, just to watch one more kid. If you're going to do foster care, do it from the goodness of your heart. Yeah, they're going to pay you regardless. You can't get away from that unless you just adopt somebody. The state doesn't like adopting, letting kids get adopted, because they lose out on making money themselves. If they don't have foster kids circulating around, the state's not bringing any extra money in. When somebody adopts a kid, the state has no legal right to them anymore. I've been up for adoption several times. There's this thing, it's called Thursday's Child. I've been nominated Thursday's Child 4 times. This was when I was younger, anywhere from 10 years old to 14 years old. So in a matter of 4 years, I was nominated Thursday's Child 4 times. Not once a year, but it might have been once a year. I don't remember. But yeah, I never got adopted. The state screwed my paperwork up so much and had me on so many medications, and had my diagnostics so off and so wrong that nobody wanted to adopt me. And yeah, it's a little heartbreaking, to be honest. It's a load of crap. It's extremely wrong what they're doing to kids. I can understand people making money and stuff, but foster is not a business. It should not be a business. The state makes money off of it. Parents make money off of it. And kids get screwed. So we might get $150 allowance for clothing, maybe like once a year, possibly twice a year. And, a lot of these foster parents, they'll take you to Dollar General for clothing shopping. While their kids are dressed up in Nike and, some of the best stuff out there, Hollister, Abercrombie, Aeropostale, Under Armour nowadays, everybody's, but foster kids, we get screwed. They take us to Dollar General or Walmart and let us pick like 2 pairs of jeans and a couple cheap t-shirts. I never had the best of the best stuff when I was in foster care. And a lot of times, a lot of my clothes were old. There's a couple foster homes where I didn't even get to go clothing shopping. Everybody said, oh, you got enough clothes. And, most of the foster homes, I wasn't really fed properly to grow like a normal teenager should. Especially in children's home. So from age 7 to 12 years old, I was 5'2". I weighed 82.5 pounds. And that was just in the children's homes. And once I turned 12 in my first foster home, in the 8 or 9 months that I was there, some good old country home cooking. My foster mom took real good care of me when it came to food. And I went from 82.5 pounds. I think I grew up to 5, 6, or 7. And I was 120. I remember being 120 pounds. by the time I left there. So I gained like 40 pounds just eating country home cooking. I wasn't fat at all. I was, because I was skinny and tall, and you I looked correct, the way I should. Some of the other foster homes I ate pretty good, and I started growing. And then when I hit 16 years old, I was 6 foot tall. I was like 5'10" to 6 foot, somewhere around there, when I went into military school. And I was 143, I believe. And then after military school, I was 6 foot, 163. And I looked really good. I was pretty cut. That was the best shape I've been in my whole life. Exercising every single day, eating one serving of whatever it is that I needed. That's just how it went. So, yeah. In a nutshell, it's pretty much how foster care goes. The foster kids get screwed. We get refused to be adopted. And of course, everybody that wants to adopt somebody wants to adopt a baby or a younger kid, something like that. Nobody wants the older kids. So the older kids, we just get cycled, and it sucks. It drains us mentally. We grow up thinking nobody wants us. Nobody wants anything to do with us because we're teenagers. It's not just me. I mean, I've known hundreds of foster kids over my period of time. Hundreds. Every time the state held some event, I went to it. Got to talk to all the other kids, and we all feel the same way. I don't want to ruin it for everybody because, there are some kids out there who do need medication and it does help them. More power to it. But don't sit there and accuse every single kid that comes in the door. Like, you don't have to prescribe us with medication and fill our heads with nonsense because we're depressed. Why do you think we're depressed? We lost our home. We lost our parents, our families. It's... You can't expect somebody just to, be perfectly satisfied getting out of their home. Yes, I came from a bad home. And yes, I probably turned out better being in foster care than I did growing up in my actual home. But that's no reason to fill my stomach with medications daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, year after year. It's ridiculous. And it shouldn't happen. Just let the trauma take its place, see where it goes, see how kids are. Then if they need a little boost or a little extra help, then try the whole medication thing. Let them go to therapy, let them just talk it out. A lot of times when I was fed medications, I was like a zombie. It's like I was not even myself until I stopped taking it on my own. But I think that's going to be it, guys. We'll get more on some of the other topics as time goes on. So, see you on the next one.